Yeah, it sort of looked different in the early 2010s when Made the Harbor came out. We were just sort of riding this wave. And like now my engagement with the music industry feels very, very different. And it almost feels contentious in a way where, like streaming has destroyed, sort of like rotted out the center of the industry. And like it's so hard financially to make it work if you're not at the top. I just played some shows, but I honestly probably won't play more because the financial reality makes no sense. But I'm not willing to not make music or to like have that part of my creative life stifled by the economic realities.
That was Alex Sauser-Monnig, and this is SHEROES, a weekly podcast to amplify women, non-binary, and genderqueer voices in music across genres and generations. We do this because we believe that sharing our stories is the first step to making music better for everyone. I'm Carmel Holt. We talk a lot these days about the sad state of the music industry, but if you know where to look, there are some pockets of hope. For me, one of those pockets can be found in the Triangle region of North Carolina, and specifically Durham and Chapel Hill, where a family tree of musicians and producers have been creating not only amazing work with lots of cross-pollination, but also some radically visionary ways of charting an independent path in an increasingly unstable, unsustainable late-stage capitalist world and industry. I'll try not to go on too long of a tangent here because I think there's a whole podcast to be made on this topic alone. But just to set the stage for today's interview, I want to take you back to the moment that I first laid eyes and ears on a couple of the folks who are at the center of the scene that I'm setting. It was the fall of 2011, and I was sitting in the audience of BAM in Brooklyn, Spellbound by Feist, who is touring in support of her new album, Metals. The goosebumps were constant, and many of them were due to the spine-tingling harmonies of a trio of singers on the stage with her. I had to know more, and I soon learned that these were not just hired backup singers, but a band called Mountain Man that had formed at Bennington College in Vermont in the late aughts by three friends, Amelia Meath, Molly Sarlé, and Alex Sauser-Monnig. At the time, they only had one album, Made the Harbor, which was released in 2010. And for those keeping track, that makes this the 15th anniversary of that album. A couple years after that tour with Feist, Mountain Man member Amelia Meath and musician and producer Nick Sanborn formed Sylvan Esso. And in 2018, at long last, Mountain Man put out their critically hailed second album, Magic Ship. And in 2019, the very first solo albums came from the other two members of Mountain Man, including the gorgeous solo debut of Alex Sauser-Monnig under the moniker of Daughter of Swords. It's called Dawnbreaker. And it didn't stray far from their Mountain Man roots. It was quiet, acoustic, and they collaborated with both of their Mountain Man bandmates as well as Nick Sanborn. A couple years later, in 2022, Alex and Amelia released their debut album as the A's called Fruit on Nick and Amelia's independent label Psychic Hotline, recorded at their recording studio called Betty's. Fast forward to 2025, Alex Sauser-Monnig has just released their second album as Daughter of Swords, called Alex. And once again, it's a chosen family affair, co-produced by Nick and Amelia. And I am so happy to welcome Alex Sauser-Monnig to the SHEROES Spotlight. Alex Sauser-Monnig, welcome to SHEROES.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here.
I'm so thrilled to have you. This feels very long overdue, but at long last, I have you here. I told you before we started today that I was really, really hoping that I could make a major magic trick happen and bring Kim Kranz here to do a reading for you because your band name, Daughter of Swords, comes from the tarot deck. So why don't we start anyway with a card pull? What do you think?
That sounds great. I love it.
Okay, so do you want to ask a question or do you want me to just shuffle and pull?
I want you to just shuffle and pull. Let's see what happens.
All right, so I'm just going to shuffle Son of Wands today.
Interesting.
Not Daughter of Swords, Son of Wands.
That's kind of neat. What do they have to say about the Son of Wands?
Okay, charming, adventurous. The Son of Wands is a true charmer. He's handsome and adventurous and seems to say all the right things. Some call him the White Knight of the Tarot, but at some point you may find he becomes hard to know. Trust your instinct with this one. Perfection is an illusion.
Wow, very interesting.
Let us look at Daughter of Swords. Okay, honest and insightful. The Daughter of Swords is a young woman whose honesty and insights take her far in life. People truly value her frankness. She learns from keen observation. It almost seems as though she never stops, quote unquote, watching. Sometimes this becomes a burden for her as she can't help noticing this or that small detail that could have been done better. There's a potential for her to hold on to those experiences and become spiteful and judgmental.
Oh my God. You know, I actually am familiar with the Mother Piece deck, and I have never heard the Daughter of Swords description from the Wild Unknown.
You're kidding.
I'm not. It's really interesting. It feels like it's also been a while since I checked in with that card. That really resonates.
I'm not familiar with the Mother Piece deck.
So the Mother Piece deck is the round deck. Have you ever seen it?
Oh, yeah.
The illustrations are so gorgeous. And the Daughter of Swords illustration is this person wearing a shirt of mail and standing on the edge of a cliff, brandishing a sword at a horse made out of clouds.
Whoa.
It's so beautiful. And when I started this project, really resonated with that image and the vanquishing of internal fears and jumping off into the wild unknown.
Into the wild unknown. Okay. So what year was that? Was that 2018?
That was 2017. Yeah, we had recorded. Wow, we recorded in 2017, maybe even late 2016. And then I put out a 7-inch with gem and grasses on it, just under my initials. And then when I put out the full Dawnbreaker record on None Such, it was released under Daughter of Swords.
Man, crazy. Well, I'm so glad that you decided to come back and do another Daughter of Swords record. The new one is gorgeous, and it's called Alex, and it's really different. Let's talk about the sonics and how that's evolved since Dawnbreaker.
Yeah, for sure. So Alex is way more electric guitar and beat forward, you might say. And I had kind of gathered this collection of songs over COVID and knew that they lived in a different sonic realm than Dawnbreaker. And so Nick Sanborn and Amelia Meath of Sylvan Esso co-produced the record with me. And my initial conversations with Nick, it was pretty clear, one of the rules we wanted to sort of embark on recording the songs with was instead of acoustic guitar, what takes the place of the sonic root of the song, because all of Dawnbreaker is acoustic guitar centric, and there is acoustic on the record, but it's just not front and center, and it felt pretty limiting to me, and I wanted to see what would happen if that was subtracted from the equation. And it just opened up so much room to pull from different sonic references and to sort of build up a library of instruments and sounds that felt like they belonged in the world of the collection of the songs.
Yeah. So what was, if there is even a song that you can point to in the collection that may have been the key that turned the lock? Is there anything in here that we can listen to a sample of?
Yeah, Alone Together was the first song that we recorded for the record. And it really sort of felt like it was a signpost for the rest of the record. It's a pretty heavy hitter and just kind of bombastic guitars and some very loose vocal takes.
That's called Alone Together, and it kicks off Alex, the new Daughter of Swords album. We have Alex Sauser-Monnig here with us on SHEROES. So Alone Together, we were talking about going into that song as the signpost of sonically how you were going to build the world of Alex, this new album with Nick Sanborn of Sylvan Esso. And I was thinking about how it's so cool to have Nick at the I almost see him as like the hinge or something, like between the acoustic folky world of Mountain Man, where you and your bandmate Amelia Meath and Sylvan Esso started, and what happens when you throw out the acoustic and the folk palette and go wide. And I love that there's this person there that's kind of like helping to usher that.
Yeah. I mean, he's just such a versatile musician and, is always trying to work in service of a song and like what the song needs to be.
Mhm.
And he's so down to try a million different things. And he's, one of those magical people who like can pick up anything and sort of like find the thing on that specific instrument that is of service to the song. And, if it's not the thing, he doesn't get attached to it. And I feel like that's like one of the gifts of a good producer is they're just like facilitating the hunt and not getting bogged down in like ego or attachment or anything like that. It's just like all about following what's fun and like letting that guide you to what feels appropriate and cool.
You said you kind of accumulated the songs that became Alex. Like, can you look back at this body of work now? Is there a common thread thematically? Or is it like a document of a particular moment for you? Talk to us a little bit about like thematically what Alex is about.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I wrote a lot of them during COVID and, like kind of everybody else in America those years. And still there's so much upheaval and turmoil and like self-examination and kind of unpacking the ways that like white America swallows the concept of their privilege at a very young age. And, just like looking at that, also looking at like how hard it is to exist financially in our country. And like, I feel that all the time. Like the middle class of the music industry has evaporated. It's like impossible to tour. Just like all of the ways that, to like Black and brown people in our country, like the inequity and like disaster that is our country and its origins and its history, that's always been clear. But like, just being like another white person unpacking like the ways that I'm complicit in that. And yeah, and the ways that like all of our lives are limited by kind of like the nature of the country that we live in. And I'm just like trying to reflect on like what that reality is and like reflect on that in the context of like climate collapse and like, just sort of the like cognitive dissonance of the time that we live in. Like, I feel like the song Strange kind of really encapsulates for me like modern existence, just trying to continue your life as normal while everything is so far from okay or normal. Yeah, so that's a long rambling answer, but I feel like each song on the record sort of engages with different facets of the reality of modern life in America as I see it. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how things have evolved, changed for you as a musician from your beginnings, being in that trio with your two college friends and then going out on your own. What has that journey been like for you? And how is it doing the solo work versus doing the work within a band, even though you're still working with your bandmates?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, Mountain Man, like you said, we started that when we were in college and called it quits a little bit when I was 25. So it sort of carried me through like the first handful of years of true adulthood in my life. And it was sort of like, there's that kind of magical way when you're in a band at that age and people are listening to you where you don't really understand that it's like not common.
Yeah.
Or like a kind of specific and cool experience. And so we were just sort of just like following that. And then when Mountain Man made our second record, Magic Ship, it was sort of like a more intentional choice to embark on a record together and to tour it. And yeah, it sort of looked different in the early 2010s when Made the Harbor came out. We were just sort of riding this wave and like now my engagement with the music industry feels very, very different. And it almost feels contentious in a way where, like streaming has destroyed, sort of like rotted out the center of the industry. And like, I kind of feel like I'm just not willing, like it's so hard financially to make it work if you're not at the top. But I feel like I'm very stubborn and I'm not willing to not make music because of the state. It's like, I can't, I just played some shows, but I honestly probably won't play more because the financial reality makes no sense. But I'm not willing to not make music or to like have that part of my creative life stifled by the economic realities of the industry today. But so it feels like a very, very different place than where
than what
I
it
started.
was. Yeah. I know a little bit about the universe that Nick and Amelia of Sylvan Esso have helped to create in North Carolina with their studio, Betty's, and with Psychic Hotline, the record label. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, Nick and Amelia are two of my best friends. And so I'm in and out of Betty's all the time. And yeah, I mean, I think they're really interested in creating through Psychic Hotline and Betty's like a place for musicians from all over the world to be able to like put out their music and have autonomy in terms of how they want to share it and promote it. And yeah, it's just like a very interesting, like, I just love watching the roster of Psychic change and grow over the years because they're just like some of the most exciting people putting out music today, I think, are putting out music on Psychic. And it's just cool. You never know who you're going to run into at Betty's. The record label is based in downtown Durham, and they recently opened they're calling it their mail room. And it's sort of like the front end of their storage area for all of the catalog of records is just this beautifully curated space that's always changing. And like I had a release gathering there that was super fun. We like brought a hot plate and made pancakes and mimosas, and like people were doodling on the table, and there was music playing and just like so many people streaming through. And it's really close to the farmers market in Durham. So on the weekend in the morning, it's like a really fun hang. And yeah, so lots of like events happening, and it's just really beautiful. It's a cool thing.
Just responding to what you were saying about how it doesn't make financial sense, to be a touring musician, and how does one do music? I'm putting that in air quotes as a career. It almost sounds like there's something in that model of like getting hyper localized about it again, like not trying to go out and tour a record, but bringing your community in.
Yeah, totally. I think that like, I feel like I'm seeing more people touring in like non-traditional venues, like house shows. There's that organization Undertow touring that like my friend Jen Wasner from Flock of Dimes, who's in Bon Iver and stuff. She's done a few Undertow tours and loves them. People submit their spaces, be it like a coffee shop or their like cool mid-century modern furniture warehouse or their home, and then like 30 to 50 tickets or whatever are available. It just seems like touring in that sort of style is making a lot of sense for people. And yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about like, what does it look like to engage with the industry? Like that doesn't just make me feel terrible. And I think what it is like, typically the on-ramp for putting a record out is like at least a year from like the time of recording. And I'm kind of like, what about recording music and then just putting it out like people do on SoundCloud? Just like make things and put them out when you're excited about them. And if people respond, you can like be nimble and adapt to that. Maybe you're making a video or maybe you're like putting it out physically. And if they don't, it's like there's not the like buildup of hopes and expectations. And it just feels like a way, I don't know, just like a way more honest way to like be with the thing that you made. Like, it's so interesting to put out a record that, like, we started recording Alex in 2021.
Mm.
That was 4 years ago.
Wow.
You know? And I love the record. It deeply resonates with me. I'm so proud of it. We just played these shows in New York and DC and North Carolina, and they were so fun. But like, what would it feel like to put out music as soon as you make it, when you're like fully living in the experience of the thing that you just made? That sounds so exciting.
Right. That totally makes sense. I think you're onto something here.
I mean, I'm not the first.
No, but still.
But yeah, I think other people are onto it, and I feel like I'm catching on too.
Yeah. So what else I feel like, am I remembering this right? Forgive me. Were you doing like furniture reupholstering or something? Like, is that your side hustle or your main hustle? And then
it's become my main thing.
Wow.
And I am obsessed with it. Yeah, a few years ago, I took this workforce training program at a community college in North Carolina, and it was like a 9-month-long training program, and I finished it a year and a half ago and started a business called Sauser House, and it's just so fun, and it's like, I don't know, it's like it's not dying, but I feel like a lot of the folks who work in upholstery and like cushion fabrication and drapery and things like that are older and retiring. And it's just a really exciting, I feel like a real dweeb about it, because it's just like, I went to art school, it's like a very visual thing of like textures and colors and materials and like collaborating on like what interior space could look or feel like. And as I was sort of waiting to put my record out, and as I was trying to figure out how to pay the bills, like the trades became very appealing to me. And I'm I'm obsessed with the trades. I feel like more people should become like electricians and plumbers and upholsterers and stuff, because those jobs can't be taken by AI either. It's like,
that's so true.
Yeah. Chat GPT can't reupholster your sofa or fix a leak in your water line. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. I agree with that so much. And also like doing something that is tangible, like not here I'm pointing to the screen. Like I find I love to cook. It's one of the things that I can get lost in. And I love that there's hours that go by that I'm not looking at my phone and I'm not looking at the computer. And sometimes I sort of like idealize or fantasize about what it would be like to do that work. Because everybody, same kind of logic. Like everybody's always going to have to eat. And it's like feeding people is the best.
Yes.
Food's the best, especially good food.
Yeah.
Wholesome food. And it feels so good to have your hands physically in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, it's so much easier to access that like flow state in your mind where, you're not looking at your phone. You become like impervious to distraction in a different way. And it's just like, that's what our brains want.
Yeah.
Like it feels so right and good. And yeah.
I'm quite a bit older, right? And I will say again, to not sound like a grandma, but it does, well, on the one hand, it's like distressing to hear about the state of the, touring industry and the challenges and how you're like, I did those shows, for example, and I'm probably not going to do more. Bummer. But
I know.
Also, like, I don't know, it kind of gives me hope to hear you talking about like wanting to get into the trades and upholstery and to see Nick and Amelia getting so inventive with what they're doing in Durham and just like that community building vibe. And it's awesome and it's so needed. And it like makes me feel better to know that, younger generations are thinking that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is sort of like, being nimble and creative. And also like, there's so much potential when something is like falling apart, like the music industry. Like, how do you build it back? It's like Joe Biden, Build it back better?
Build it back better. Yeah.
Oh my God. But truly, like, that's just such an opportunity to like
Right.
create something that feels cool and like it's actually serving the people who are involved and like is like, you know, breathing some fresh air into something that feels pretty stale. Cause like people also like ticket sales across the industry are tanking. Like people don't go to shows the way they did before COVID. So like, how do you make it something that people are excited to do that's like presenting something that's not like a Live Nation show or, you know, something that you just have to like jump through all these like stupid ticket booking hoops to like even access. And yeah, I don't know. It just feels like refreshing at the same time that it feels deeply sad and distressing.
Yes. All of those things, all of the above. We can hold space for all of it. As they say, hold space. Caroline Rose, they were doing a tour called the Slug Tour.
I saw that.
Yeah. Only independent venues, right?
Yeah.
No Live Nation, no middleman. I think they're touring solo with an acoustic guitar. And they put their music out, I want to say like only on Bandcamp and some limited pressings.
I love that.
This is exactly what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Figure out the way to do it that's like asking questions instead of just getting like, I don't know, slammed into some lane that doesn't really work.
Yeah, fuck the man. We have Alex Sauser-Monnig here with us on SHEROES Daughter of Swords' new album is called Alex. Let's pick another track to go to. What do you want to play?
Let's play Hard On.
Hell yeah. Oh, yes. This is one of my faves. You want to tell us anything about this song before we play clip?
Oh, I like to think of it as being like inside a really horny pinball machine.
Amazing. That's called Hard On from the new Daughter of Swords album, Alex. We have Alex Sauser-Monnig here with us on SHEROES. Where did you and music initially meet up? Like before the Mountain Man chapter and college and so forth, was music always your thing?
It was always a big part of my life, but initially because, well, my parents started a music store together when they were 21 years old.
Wow.
In St. Paul, Minnesota, which is where I'm from. And so, you know, like my dad would pick me up from kindergarten and get me a hot dog at the Dairy Queen around the corner. And then I would post up in the break room and like watch cartoons at the music store. So like access to lessons was always available because of that. And my mom has a master's in flute performance and teaches flute lessons. And my dad has been a guitar player his whole life. And my sister, you know, played a bunch of instruments. So it's always been around. And I was always sort of like, yeah, it's cool. But I think not until I was, you know, a teen and in college did I really get like hyped about composing and songwriting and like find my own pathway into it. Because I'm not like, I always really struggled with reading music. And because of maybe the context in which I grew up, it felt like that was prerequisite to being a musician. And because it was such a challenge for me, I was like, I guess this isn't for me. And then I realized, you know, as I moved out into the world more, like there's so many ways to engage with music that have nothing to do with reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. How has gender intersected with or not, or supported or not, your work as a creative person, as an artist?
I mean, I guess in various ways. I wouldn't say it's like the predominant piece for me at all, but like, I mean, I think like part of my relationship to music, I think early on was defined by like feeling like it was inaccessible also from like a gender perspective, like venue staff, like the sound guys, the like whatever, like walking into a guitar shop, it's like always men and like often men who, I'm not speaking like across the board, they're like amazing men in all of those contexts, but there's so much energy of like, you're not like, this isn't necessarily a space for you, or like, I've got a chip on my shoulder and like, I'm going to make you feel bad about it. And like that type of energy. Yeah. So I think like, in a way, like acoustic music sort of felt like an easier in to the music world, because there's just so much less that you have to deal with, less opportunities for interfacing with like that type of energy, which is really sad, because like making loud music is really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess like that's an aspect of it. And then I think like from like a writing perspective, there's something about, well, yeah, that like language is power, and it allows you to sort of speak into reality, like experiences, and embody yourself in ways that just feel more accessible through language, maybe. Yeah. But it's like, I haven't spent that much time thinking about it. So it's interesting to be given the opportunity to reflect.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're here to do. I feel like for sure, you're not the first person that's talked about the dudes in the venues and the music store with the guys with the chip on their shoulder. But what I hadn't quite heard before was the angle of playing acoustic music almost as like a path of least resistance.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't really acknowledged that in my own mind until this moment. But I think that's like, does really feel true.
Well, and also then that kind of reframes or is a cool new way of looking at Alex, the new record, right? Because you're really taking ownership of a space that you hadn't really been owning before, musically speaking.
Yeah.
Is that okay to put those words in your mouth?
I mean, I think that feels true. Like, I think that in a way, even having the conversations with Nick about like, I don't want this to feel like an acoustic record. Yeah. Like, it's not setting a trap for myself, but it's like kind of pushing myself through a door that I wanted to go through, but like felt like I, for whatever reason, just like felt like I couldn't go through. And yeah.
So if it's okay to push this just another step further, Alex, why do you think that now or then, I guess it's been 4 years since you made the record, why now or why then? Like, what gave you that? Is it just maturing and age and getting more confidence in yourself and your abilities, or?
I think it's probably a mixture of things. The hope for adulthood, right, is it's a path, and you keep exploring and you keep like learning more things about yourself and trying and challenging yourself in different ways. And so it's like partly that, and then partly, honestly, I'm on Lexapro and I feel a lot better in my mind than I have for my whole adult life.
Amazing.
So I just feel like a lot safer in my own mind, and so that's an aspect of it. Yeah, I think just like choosing not to live from a place of fear internally opens up a lot of room to like do things that maybe you didn't feel comfortable doing before, or like, like some combination of choosing not to live in fear of things that I want for myself, and also just feeling safer internally. Because of SSRIs, bless them.
Bless them. Yes.
I love them.
The space at Betty's, from what I hear, is a pretty diverse and even maybe like largely femme-queer space. Am I getting that right?
Allie Rogers is the engineer at Betty's, and she is amazing and like so gifted at making anyone feel comfortable using the space and being there. And yeah, it's Amelia and Nick are the owners, and they're responsible for the space existing. And yeah, it's like among the people who run Betty's, Nick is the only cis guy on the ground, so to speak. It's a very welcoming place, and yeah, it's very cool.
We need more spaces like that.
I know. I feel like I'm in and out of there so much, I'm not even thinking about it as like a rarity, but I guess it really is.
I mean, talk about like a common thread that I hear week in, week out talking to folks is like, we need more femme and queer venues. We need more femme and queer run, studios. Studios is a huge one. And man, people on the tech side,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I hate that that's true, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel lucky to exist in that type of space. And I wish that wasn't the case. I wish there was more of that energy.
Well, since we're talking about wishes, we may as well move right into our magic wand moment. Here's a magic wand, Alex. I'm handing it to you through the screen. And with this wand, you can change anything in the music industry. For women, for non-binary folks, for queer folks, for BIPOC folks, for everybody that doesn't have an equal say or an equal platform or equal access. What would you change with the first wave of the wand?
I would kill Spotify.
That's a good wish.
Yeah. Well, they're investing in AI drone crap for the military. So yeah, I mean, that feels like an easy one.
You and I understand, but maybe for listeners that might not know why we feel Spotify is evil.
Yeah. I mean, they're just like so responsible for quashing like smaller artists on their platform, and the invention of Spotify. It's like, just another app created to like fill time. And like, what a horrible guiding principle for a platform through which the majority of people access music. That feels like such a horrible basis for a platform that's just so dominant in the music space. So they just do not have the interests of artists in mind, and they don't have the interests of listeners in mind.
How do you discover new music, and how do you listen to music? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, I am blessed with a lot of people who have excellent taste in music. So often if someone else is DJing, I'm like, what is this that we're listening to? I need to like find it and listen to it myself. I go to record stores. A lot of what I listen to at home right now is like jazz and also like old choral music, like medieval choral music, like Hildegard von Bingen and stuff like that. So, seeking out that type of music. I really do like mining my friends for inspiration because there's so much there.
So do you use stream? If somebody was like, okay, I'm going to boycott Spotify, what would you tell them to use if they want to stream music?
Well, I use Tidal. I really like Tidal, but Apple Music I feel like those are the major alternatives, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's probably true. Alex, it's been awesome to spend a little time with you. And before we say goodbye, I would love to pick another track. Is there a song here that is especially meaningful to you or that you're especially proud of?
Yeah, let's play West of West. It's the last track on the record, and I'm deeply proud of this one.
With thanks once again to Alex Sauser-Monnig. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Carmel.
You brightened my week.
I'm so glad.
Many thanks once again to Alex Sauser-Monnig for joining us. Their new album, Alex, is available now on Psychic Hotline. SHEROES is produced by me, is mixed and mastered by Kelly Drake. Our original theme music is by Lucius. SHEROES is also a nationally syndicated radio show. Please visit SHEROESradio.com to find out more. Keep in touch on Instagram and Twitter at SHEROES Radio, and please consider leaving us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. That helps us grow and bring you more SHEROES. Until next time, remember, music is our superpower. I'm Carmel Holt. Thanks for listening. SHEROES is proud to present The Road to Joni, celebrating the legacy and impact of Joni Mitchell. Subscribe now to The Road to Joni, distributed by Talkhouse and available wherever you get your podcasts.